Thank you very much. So today we're going to be touching on just a quick overview of what BIM 360 Field is, if you haven't seen any of the other presentations previously. We're going to talk a little bit about Field's QAQC and the safety tools work, as they are very similar. We're going to go over some of their benefits, what you can do with it, and then we're actually going to do a live demonstration of the BIM 360 Field service. And we're going to do that both on the web portal as well as on the mobile platform that works on the iPad. Again, any questions you have throughout the presentation, feel free to pop them into the Q&A little window on the side. Alrighty. So, BIM 360 Field. If you're not familiar with it, what it is actually is a web service. I say service because it's not really a program that you necessarily install on your computer. There's plugins that you can install to help synchronize data back and forth from different projects or models or other files. But essentially it's a service, which means you can access it from just about anywhere. So main thing is, open up a web browser, log in, and you're on. There's also the mobile application, which means that you can access that data remotely without actually needing to be connected to the internet. Hopefully this makes it a little bit easier. Now, main thing it works on is what you can actually do in the field. It's tracking the actual things that are happening during the construction process. So when you're out there, if you need to find out what's going on, if you need to check on different issues with quality controls, safety programs, sharing documents that are actually happening in the field, those are all things that we can actually do with it. And we do that with an online document library. So if you're trying to share content or files back and forth, it can do that. When we start talking about things like checklists, we have to make sure everything is being done correctly. If there are things that are done incorrectly or just things that need to be done, you can create issues for that. And all of that can be created and reported on. Again, one of the main things from BIM is the ability to actually, read what's going on. So if you have Revit, you can schedule or quantify just about anything. Same thing for this. When you put all that together, you end up essentially with Field BIM. And from that, what we're going to be focusing on this time is our safety programs, and the tools that we're going to use to focus on that are going to be our checklists, our issues, as well as our reporting management. Now, to start with, what we're talking about is the QAQC. Now, the QAQC is looking at how we currently work on a normal project, if it's unstructured. So what you might end up doing is you're looking at you're looking at the construction of the project, and it doesn't really happen until near the end that you're really going through what the issues are. You're getting all these observations near the end. And because of that, what you end up doing is you do a lot of rework. You end up having to find out that, oh, this was maybe wrong a month or two ago. Somebody's finally coming to check it. Now, even if it's not that long, maybe the guy that did the work that could have fixed it, he's on another project. So now it takes more time, more money, and more rework to actually get things taken care of. And that could really impact both the bottom line as well as the completion dates. Now, if we look at the way things in Field tend to be structured, we're looking at actually doing this throughout the course of the project. So rather than all at once near the end, you have everything organized, you have everything managed. So as you're running through, everybody can actually look at things, see if there's something wrong, set this up, run through checklists. And that way, when you get near the end, you're not just doing this with negative issues, you're doing this with positive issues. You're getting rid of a lot of the rework that tends to happen too far along. Now, in a very similar setup, when we look at our safety issues, a traditional safety program typically is only run by the inspectors. They only really focus on negative issues. And when you're trying to find out what's going on or you want to get information, you tend to have to ask the safety guy, which may or may not be on that one project. Maybe a construction firm, maybe only have one or two of them, and they make the rounds on different projects. The problems with this is they don't necessarily drive the right behaviors. So if you've only got one guy, that's his job to deal with it, maybe other people don't care about it. Because you can only find the information from the one guy, you're not really measuring performance, and it's not going to drive EMR down. Looking at the process from using BIM 360 Field, what you end up doing is you create safety checklists. This allows everybody to make observations, to find things that are wrong, but not only that, to run through and track the positives. We don't want to just look at the negative issues. We want to also track the positive ones and make sure that everything's actually being done. The other benefit of this is because all of this is being tracked, you can analyze and manage and find trends in issues. If you notice that there's a person here that is, continually making the same mistake, not just on one project, but on multiple, then you can actually review, okay, well, who are we working with on these teams? The end result of this is, number one, our projects will be safer. We're going to have a better understanding of the root causes because we can actually track this information and review it at any point in time, not just on one project, but across all projects. And by showing that you're actually showing your projects have become safer, you can also go for reduced insurance costs. Now, enabling that functionality within our safety programs. We do this with a bunch of the different tools that Field offers. One of them is the library. Using documentation in there, both 2D or 3D, we can use to reference regulations, requirements, as well as locations within the project. If we're tracking issues, so somebody's not doing something they should be doing, or there's an issue with this was here yesterday but it got broken. This is something that now, rather than you telling one person, him telling another person, and so on and so forth, playing a game of telephone and hoping everybody does what they need, you mark the issue, it gets put online, it gets sent to the correct people, and it gets managed and notified very quickly. Checklists, we're using those to create the structure that we want. So that way we can have a standardized inspection process. So it's not like 3 or 4 people are all looking at the same information, but maybe they're looking at it differently, they're reviewing it differently. This allows you to manage that and make sure it's consistent, so that way you're getting consistent results. From there we have our tasks. So let's say we run through our checklist, we find that there's an issue, then we can create a task to remedy that. And again, all of this is going to be tracked and checked. And then once we have that, we have our reports. With our reports, we can actually run through things and actually quantify and track all of this data. So it's very easy for me to run through and say, okay, well, show me what's going on with this project. Who's been failing the most in terms of checklists? Who's been the most successful? And in terms of our workflow, normally what's going to happen is one person creates a safety issue. That goes through, it gets documented, hopefully it's addressed. Somebody comes out and then closes it. The thing is, though, it doesn't really take care of the compliance issue. It doesn't allow things to be tracked. And if something does get failed, what happens? With this way, if something fails, it stays in the queue. It has to be dealt with. You don't let it go away. So what ends up happening is you keep passing it, it gets put in, and then you can track that. You can actually see what's going on with things. So from here, what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to slide into the actual service. And we're going to take a look at how this really works. So I'm going to hop into BIM 360 Field. There we go. Now, if this looks a little weird for you, this is actually the new interface. So it's still relatively new. And what I'm looking at is my dashboard. I can see my project overview, issues that are open, companies with most, root causes to problems, and basically typical information, but it's a little bit cleaner than it used to be. Now, if what I'd like to do is actually look at my issues, I'm just going to come over here to my checklists. And I can actually see what's going on so far. These are the ones that we've created. And I can see that some of these are for personal protective equipment. If I take a look at this, I can hop in and I can actually see, okay, well, what's my checklist? This is the name of it. I can assign this to a company. I can check my priority. I can see what the status of this is. Is it opened or is it closed? And I can see, well, what location was I actually inspecting? Where was I reviewing this? Was it on the east side of the site, the west side, first floor, fifth floor? So those are the kind of things I can actually start to track. Now, when I move down a little bit, what I'm able to actually see is the actual checklist. So I can see all the different pieces. This one is currently the personal protective equipment and clothing. I can always minimize that if there's multiple groups. And I can say that, yes, it either is not, or it's not applicable to what I'm looking at currently. I can always enter in more details, and I can actually create an issue from this. So if I'm looking at this and are they, I can always say no, make that a negative. Take a look at my details. And from here I can assign, okay, the problem is this company, this is the spec reference, maybe it's the general requirements or something else I want to tie it to. I can always make attachments. So camera, link, library, different files, and set that up. What I can also do is create a brand new issue from this. So, okay, yes, this is actually a problem. And now what we need to do is create that issue. I'm going to add that to the project. It's the safety issue type. Issue ID is new. Give it the root cause. Again, all these things are things that you can actually create, and I'm going to take a look at that in a bit. And I can mark all these. So this is just a quick overview of some of my checklists, and I'm looking at a specific checklist for safety. Now, this one here is based on a template. I can look at it, I can set it up. The templates themselves are something that anybody can manage and set up for your project. If I look at my project setup, and I take a look at my checklists, you can see that currently I have a handful. I'm looking at my QAQC ones first, and then I can look at my safety. And in here I have a handful. I've got my identification of piping, my personal protection one, the one I was just looking at, as well as welding, cutting, and brazing standards. So these are just 3 that are created in here. You can create as many checklists as you feel you need for your project. And within there, I can create the questions that I want. I can create different sections or groupings to organize the things that I should be checking based on the kind of work I'm doing. And I can actually create, what kind of information should this have? Should it allow itself to be true, positive, yes, no, that kind of information. And all this is something that I can actually set up. Now, let's say that your office already has a standardized checklist. We're not going to say that you have to start from scratch. What you can actually do is either export this out and give it to somebody to edit in Excel, or if you already have one in Excel, you can import it. What you're looking at here is basically the template that you can download directly from the field service. So basically you have your checklist name, your permissions, auto-create issues, what the text will be, and there's more information in here if you'd like to actually add it. And the nice thing is what we're looking at now is, the actual portions and groups and information. But at the very top of this Excel spreadsheet, it gives you an example and information on what you're looking at. What things are required? How do you have to fill it in? So I mentioned before, when we're looking at the response type over here, where you can say positive, negative, non-applicable, these are the different things you can actually put in there. Do you want it to say pass or fail, true or false? How would you like that to actually read to the people who are going to be working on this? This is all the kind of information that you can manage and change to make it easier for your actual people doing the inspections to get you the kind of responses that you want. So you don't have to do it all here on the website. You can export it, hand it over to somebody who actually has done this before previously, and you can take your existing standards and move them over here. And the same thing if I have standard properties, things I want to track, but there's new ones that I like, I can always create custom data. So what we're looking at right now is our checklists. This is where I would standardize and create my typical checklists. Now, from that, what we were looking at before were the checklists online. Now, the only problem with looking at these checklists is that you have to be at a computer with a website. Now, if you have an Android tablet or a Windows tablet, this is typically what you'd be working on. But at the moment, those actually do need to be connected to the internet. If you're using the iPad tablet, what you can end up doing is using this tool. So this is actually going to allow me to connect to, once it finishes connecting anyway, there we go, connect to the iPad. So what I'm looking at right now is the excuse me, BIM 360 Field app on the iPad. I can come in here, I can choose which project I'd like to look at. Once I've done that, I can synchronize that project while I am actually connected to the internet. And you can see currently I'm actually looking to download all my checklists. So once I've downloaded all my checklists, I can hop over here, go to checklists, and this will actually show me the ones that I currently have. I can see, oh, okay, well, right now I've got this one. I started editing that a little bit earlier. So I'll take a look at that. Looking at the portions of this checklist on my iPad, I can run through the project and say, yes, all the ladders are in good condition. So I'm circling that. Are the non-slip ladder? Yep, that's good. You know what? They're not on every one, though. And basically, I can run through these and continue to fill these out. So I'm actually tracking not just everything that's broken that I might see, but I'm running through a list of all the things I should see. And I can actually track what's great, what's not right. And there's reasons why I would actually look at both of these. If I do run into anything here, I can always click on it and say, okay, well, it's this company, again, tying to a spec, tying to a location. So this one's actually happening on the first floor, and maybe it happens on room 100. And if need be, I can give it a little bit more information. And you can also add attachments. So if I want to add attachment, let's say that there's a problem here and I realize that the person who's supposed to be watching the ladder or working on the ladder, they're actually asleep on the job. Well, what you can always do is you can add a photo of that, and you can actually take a look at it and make sure. So workers asleep on the job, you can always take that photo, draw on it, put text on there, and actually do dimensions and anything else that you might need. So once you've actually saved that, that becomes a part of the issue. Also, just so you know, you can add different kinds of attachments. So if what you'd like to do, again, is photos, you can actually add files from the library. So maybe there's a spec or a cut sheet that you have to say, okay, this is what they should be referring to. You can pick those different files out from that project library and assign them to that issue. And as well as that, you can also add links to a URL. So if you have to point to a specific website, you can do that as well. So hop out of that. Once I'm finished, now I'm okay. I've gone through my site. I've looked at my inspections that I needed to do. Hopefully I've done more than just 3 on this list. And then once I feel I'm good, I come over here and tell it to sync. Now again, I'm working currently online, but when you're working with the iPad in the field, maybe you're in a basement, maybe you're out on the site and there's no cell coverage there yet. This allows me to work unconnected. So I sync before I leave the internet. That gives me the data I need to go out and do my work for that day. Then once I'm finished, or once I find coverage again, I sync it back up. And this will upload my issues, my checklists, my anything else that I've actually set it up for, and then download anything else that's changed while I've been out of range. So that way it makes sure that I'm still working with the rest of my team and taking care of what I need to. So from all of that, the main things that we're looking to do here is to manage by rule, not as exception. Again, when we were talking about the differences between the typical safety and the way that BIM 360 Field wants to work on it, we're providing structure and we're not just highlighting the negative. We're actually trying to highlight the positive. Part of the reason for this is that typically if you look at a project, you might say we have 50 QAQC or safety issues in a month or 100. That doesn't really sound that good. But when you're looking at it by rule as opposed to by exception, you can say, well, yeah, we had 100 issues, but you know what? That was out of 3,000. So we maybe have a 2% issuance. Or 2% of all the things that we're tracking we have an issue with. That doesn't sound that bad. So you're actually making sure that, number one, we're meeting all the things that are required, and you're tracking the specific things that are bad. From that, you're actually getting points that you can inspect, you can document, and you can verify. If you think that someone's causing issues, but you can't really prove it because you're not tracking it, this actually allows you to do so. And again, because we can actually take this structure from any existing work that you're doing, if you're using anything Excel-based or data sheet-based, we can bring that in. So that way your workflow, or the data that you normally would track, just translates. So, things we looked at today. We went over a quick overview of what BIM 360 Field was. We talked about how it's a web service that actually allows you to work even when you're not connected to the web. We talked about how BIM 360 Field's QA and QC safety tools actually work. We talked a little bit about its benefits. We went over the process of how you can actually look at and manage your checklists, which is what we would typically use for a lot of this. From that, the value to your team is, again, we're looking to make sure that you're profitable. You're actually doing very good work, and you're reducing issues that you might not catch until too late. By enabling the quality and the safety, we're making sure that everybody is a part of that process. We're not just saying only the one guy's going to track it. And anything here can actually be reviewed and help you get more business because of that. It'll differentiate your services because you can then prove this is our track record, this is our reporting. That's actually one of the things I forgot to show is one of these checklists. This is just a very quick report that I can make. So I can run through and say, show me all the issues that are conforming, show me all the ones that are not conforming. And I can actually see who the people are that did those reviews, when it was done, and how it was set up. And one of the main things is we want to make sure that we're tracking everything. So that way, everything ends up the way you want it.